Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really big safety alert for a powerhouse of an engine, the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000. You know, the one that powers the incredible Boeing 787 Dreamliner?
So let's just jump right in. And get this, it's pretty wild when you think about it. We're talking about the super high-tech world of aviation, right? And yet, a single part, this thing is barely bigger than a paperclip, has regulators all over the globe scrambling and demanding urgent action. How does that even happen?
So here's how it all went down. On September 15, 2025, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, you'll hear them called EASA, basically put the entire industry on high alert. And this wasn't just some routine memo, This was a direct, super targeted move to get out in front of what could be a really dangerous problem. And the directive itself is laser-focused. It doesn't just say all Trent 1000s. Nope, it calls out one specific version, the Pack B, that's on the Boeing 787 fleet. And the solution they're proposing, it's not just a quick fix, not a Band-Aid. They're demanding both immediate, repeated inspections and a permanent engineering fix to make sure this problem goes away for good. So you're probably wondering, what is this tiny little component that's causing such a huge safety alert? Well, let's dig in and get right to the root of the problem.
Okay, so the part in question is called the anti-rotation block, and its job? Oh, it's absolutely crucial. You have to picture this. Deep inside the engine's high-pressure compressor, you've got parts spinning at just unbelievable speeds. This tiny little block is basically a locking pin. Its whole purpose is to make sure everything stays perfectly, and I mean perfectly, aligned, so the engine doesn't, well, tear itself apart.
And this is where it gets really serious. The manufacturer, Rolls-Royce, they're the ones who identified this massive risk. They realized that if this little block were to come loose during a flight, it could shorten the life of other critical parts and, worst-case scenario, compromise the structural integrity of the entire engine.
It's really like a terrifying chain reaction. Imagine this. First, the block works its way loose. Then, it gets shot right into one of the most sensitive areas of the engine, that high-pressure compressor. And from there, it's basically a game of high-speed pinball bouncing off critical rotating parts. The end result? Direct structural damage and, the potential for a catastrophic failure.
Okay, so the big question is, how do you stop that chain reaction before it even has a chance to start? Well, EASA has laid out a really clear two-pronged solution to get things back on track and fix this problem for good. All right, part one of the fix is all about being constantly watchful. The directive is proposing a super strict inspection schedule. We're talking every single affected engine needs to be checked after every, get this, 800 flights. That's a regular, can't-miss-it checkup just to make absolutely sure that tiny block is still right where it's supposed to be. So this basically gives airlines two ways to handle it. You could call them Path A and Path B. Path A is the temporary route. You just keep doing those inspections every 800 cycles, using either a tiny camera, it's called a borescope, or by analyzing advanced engine data. But then there's Path B, the permanent fix, a one-and-done modification. They actually redesign the part and its housing, which just completely eliminates the risk. And let me tell you, these inspections aren't just suggestions. They have real consequences. If a maintenance crew finds anything out of place, a loose part, some foreign object rattling around, any sign of damage, that engine is grounded. That's it. It has to be pulled off the plane before its next flight. When it comes to this, safety is absolutely non-negotiable. So let's talk about the real-world impact. What does something like this actually mean for the airlines? The ones flying hundreds of these Dreamliners every single day. Well, the effects, they ripple out across their entire operation. For the airlines, it really boils down to a classic trade-off. On one hand, from a safety point of view, it's a massive win. You're taking a very serious risk off the table. But on the operational side, it's a headache. It means more time in the maintenance shop, which means more potential for costly aircraft downtime. And then there's the money, right? All of it adds up. The inspections, the labor, the cost of that final modification. It's a big deal. Now, it's important to remember that a directive like this doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. And this proposal, it isn't the final say. It's actually just one step in a much bigger process, one that the whole aviation industry gets to be a part of. You can actually trace this back to 2024, when the first round of initial inspections started. So now, with this new proposal on the table as of September 2025, we've entered this really critical phase, the consultation period.
This is the industry's chance to speak up, to give feedback, before a final, legally binding rule is locked in.
And that's a really key point to understand about where things stand right now, because this is still just a proposal. The airlines, the engineers, the people who actually have to do the work, they get to give their feedback directly to EASA. They could talk about costs, about timing, about whether it's even feasible. And all that feedback helps shape a final rule that's not just safe, but also practical for the real world.
You know, this whole situation leaves us with a pretty big question for the future of aviation. I mean, this anti-rotation block is one tiny, almost insignificant detail in what is otherwise an absolute marvel of engineering. But as these jet engines keep getting more powerful, more complex, how does the industry get better at finding these tiny, almost microscopic risks before they turn into major safety alerts? That really is the challenge, isn't it?